Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert T. Green, CEO of Pre-Post Game, also known as the Players Rep, here to educate and empower and protect the athletes and their family special interests alone. Happy Juneteenth 2021. Again, very meaningful day in the sense of not the actual term Juneteenth, but as we continue to see things that are going on in the world of athletics, which we specialize in, on how the world is basically good about putting things out to make it look good on top. You know, masking, if you will. It's like painting over mold, but you still have the mold, but you can't see it, so you really don't understand what's going on. So these are the things that, again, I wanted to take the time today to address, specifically, again, with name, image, and likenesses, where we at in society from the player's perspective, the family's perspective, because once again, if you don't know where you are, how can you know where you want to be and how you're going to get there? So we want to continue to bring that type of information to you, as well as what we are doing at pre-post game, because again, we can say that we're the only ones that we know of, logistically, legally, and professionally, that have actually created an actual platform pertaining to name, image, and likeness. Name, obviously, who you are. Image is where you're at. And likeness is where you want to be and how do you leverage your platform to get there in your best interest and not the industry's. So we have done that. We will continue to do that. And then before it's all said and done, we will basically be able to show you and talk about exactly what we're going to be doing going forward to actually put you, the athlete, in the best situation possible to get you where you want to be. So again, you bear with me. I'm trying to get my bearings together pertaining to the actual live. And welcome to everybody that's joining in again, who's normally doesn't get to see what we do over here. Essentially, when it comes to putting athletes in their best situation possible. So just a little backdrop of what's going on in Congress the last couple of days. There was meetings regarding where we stood in name, image, and likeness, where some senators asked actual athletes, was athletics a full-time job? And the athletes said absolutely. People that are in Congress don't understand that sports trafficking is real. Youth sports trafficking in particular, where you have an industry that essentially is predicated off the same things, such as trust the process. Trust the process in an industry that where you don't understand the real numbers. Players, to say football, particularly per year, that are trying to play football. But essentially, you're being recruited through their process. You're being talking about education that you may receive at that university, not understanding that one, is not a 4-year scholarship, which means you are not guaranteed to graduate from that school. Two, another thing that was said in actual Congress is that the actual players that thought they would be able to get a degree in certain areas, only to find out once they got on campus that those classes that they wanted to major in was not applicable because of their sports schedule during that time. It was not able due to their sports schedule to attend classes on Thursday and Friday. Also, each quote unquote scholarship, but the real term is financial aid, is 1 year renewable. The reason why it's 1 year renewable, because again, it is financial aid. And what financial aid is basically provided to anyone who is of poor income. All parents have to fill out that actual documentation. And this is why how some of the schools get away around this actual situation. They want you to sign what they call the national letter of intent, a one-way document that needs to be reviewed by your attorney or someone such as ourselves at pre-post game to help understand that that is not a scholarship paperwork. And essentially, you don't need to sign an NLI to actually obtain a scholarship. What that means is that that one-way document is that that coach who knows he's going to be leaving to take a job elsewhere has been obligated by his current university and his next university and the NCAA not to tell you and the parent that he's actually taking a job elsewhere. He's obligated not to tell you that reality is when you get recruited and a coach changes, the majority of coaches come in and tell their athletic directors and their actual other coaches that that's not your recruiting class, and hence start to put those same athletes that came there was only trying to achieve their dream in harm's way, mentally, physically, emotionally. And obviously, again, we know sports trafficking is real. Goes out Jerry Sandusky or Larry Nassar in Ohio State and Richard Anderson, where Bo Schembechler's son just came out a couple of days ago and said that he told his father, the great coach, that he was molested by the doctor, and the coach his father basically turned his back on him. Trust the facts, not the process. So again, that means that there are people in this industry that have set out to do bodily and sexual harm to the same people that's asking you to trust the process. So once again, if you understand what a draft means, it tells you what you want to hear, but not what you need to know, and proceeds to tell someone else the very following year, or actually the same time that year, the same thing they told you, what makes you think that you're going to be able to achieve the success that you hope to accomplish based off of people telling you the same exact thing? How can you pass tests if you don't have any of the answers? Because at the end of the day, when someone's basically using your body, your name, your image, your likeness to feed their family, and that's their main agenda, how you need to go about being in a position yourself to be able to take care and feed yours. That is what pre-post game is about. This is why we're here. This is why I speak also as a player's rep, directly to basically ensure the athlete's best interest is put at the level it needs to alone. So again, you're talking about name, image, and likeness, as I said before. This is not about getting paid in college athletics. This is about high school. This is about college. This is about pro. This is about transition succession planning, about you as the athlete when you start this journey, having all the tools necessary physically, emotionally, socially, financially to maximize your ability. And we can say at pre-post game, we're the only ones that have done that, and know that at the end of the day, when you're looking to get NIL services, that you should really look towards us. As you see, we talk about marketing and branding, what people need to understand about marketing. And for all those people out there that got sports management degrees, we happen to work directly with athletes. We work with over 50 athletes in all different areas, all across the country, throughout every conference in the United States of America. Our structure, our services crosses over from basketball, football, MMA, boxing, women's track, and the list goes on and on and on. We pride ourselves in being able to give you the answers that you need to make the informed best business decision for you. When I spoke about, again, the actual last year, the NFL draft 2021, the opt-outs, and what that means is that young men that decided to not play, essentially many sophomores in college not to play their actual junior or senior year in order to prepare for the NFL draft. Again, a smart business decision. Not understanding that in this world that you can be educated, you can go back to school up to the age of 100, 200 if you make it that far. What you cannot do is continue to play a sport at a high level when your body no longer sees fit. So if you're talking about your dream or your goals is to get to the National Football League, the NBA, MLB, you name it, the Olympics, if you spend the majority of the time focused on basically helping the university who does not compensate you, does not give you proper information pertaining to your injuries, does not protect you emotionally, does not set you up for success financially or professionally, how do you expect to come out on top of that? When you have grown men and women that's comfortable in their 30s and 40s having closed door meetings with 14, 15, 16-year-olds, we know sports trafficking is real. At the end of the day, telling you what you want to hear, but not what you need to know, and feeling like because of your social economic norms and standing, that the only way you can make it out of the hood per se is through sport. That is the catch. That is the draw and traffic. However, what is going to happen when such people like ourselves at pre-post game is pushing for athletes to be compensated their entire lives for the actual work that they have done? When you're talking about scholarships, as I said before, financial aid is based off your income, your parents' income. So when you have a government that gives these schools, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit organizations, money called subsidies to house or work with, many, in this case, majority of African-American athletes in pursuit of chasing their dreams and goals. Then you have actual apparel companies that put hundreds of millions, again, into the same school's pocket as an actual write-off, while the actual apparel company gets the actual exposure to brand, the actual ability to create sales off that same athlete who's uneducated, uninformed, and underrepresented in every which way. You give them that, in return, you give them also helmet stickers and rings and cotton t-shirts in exchange for millions of dollars. You give them the cotton t-shirt and rings, and they in return get injury sustainable that when you have even at the pro level, that they're being diagnosed with racial norms saying that their cognitive level is low. So between your union and between your representation, at the end of the day, you're an athlete playing a sport like football, a short-lived career. When you talk about business return of investment, that it takes essentially 17 years to even get there for potential 2.5 years of return. And now once you have everybody else in that space that's working with you is an actual business, has an EIN and a TIN. Trust the facts, not the process. How are you now, as an athlete that was trusting the process and basically trafficked from a child to the point now being a pro, how do you expect to come out on top when everybody you talk to, the agent, the insurance provider, the car dealership, the jeweler, the real estate agent, the NFLPA, every single one of them are putting paperwork in front of you and you need your signature to keep their business going, but you're not a business. Trust the facts, not the process. Pre-post game is built as an accelerator to help educate and empower the athlete, but more importantly, build and develop them as the entrepreneurs that they are, the sportspreneurs that they are, to actually accelerate business acumen in the desire they want to be. But with that being said, we also develop them to know that when they no longer play in the sport, that they can actually transition successfully in society without having the same things that we know the majority of athletes have issues with, not feeling comfortable in having conversations that we're not adequate in outside of the sport that we played for the last 20 to 22 years. Not being able to recognize and speak about the things that we went through because if it didn't go the way we thought. We have pride and we don't want to speak about how these things made us feel a certain way because we're told we have to be tough and we have to be prideful. We don't want to talk about how we feel like in a lot of areas that we have failed because of whatever type of thought process was basically ingrained or institutionalized and indoctrinated us as a kid. We didn't realize we helped put somebody in a situation where they're making 7 to 8, 9 figures and they don't pick up the phone or return our call anymore, whether it's the coach from high school, college, or pros, or the agencies that you paid millions of dollars to, and you have nothing to show for it. Trust the facts, not the process. So again, if you're talking about business NIL, when you have a Senate, if you will, you have people all over the world you recognize to this day right now when we're talking about being paid for your name, image, and likeness. Again, name, who you are, image, where you're currently at, and likeness, who you want to be and how you leverage that in your platform to get there for sustainable generational wealth and emotional and actually fiscal responsibility. Pre-post game is the only one that provides that type of compensation, that type of communication and direction to ensure that you get there. We have several different services starting at the age of 14 and it ranges through the age of 60. The test, if you have the answer to the test, you should never fail. So with that being said, when July 1 comes, for those that before you get involved with the actual person that's talking about NIL services, we strongly suggest and hope you take a look at us and through our platform and profile. We have a lot of different things that we NILRS to basically make sure the athlete understands how to build a brand, how to build a business, how to be educated on certain things and informed on certain things and protected on certain things that without them would have ceased to exist to this day. So that's what leads me to my next point for those who haven't understood or heard what's going on in CFB right now, which is an acronym for college football. And so for many years, people have spoke about not allowing players or not wanting to have more than 4 games, essentially saying that it's too much. But now, as I said before, when you have the actual players opt out last year, you had 9 first-rounders drafted, 10 first-rounders drafted. The majority of those opt-outs were drafted ahead of guys that stayed at school, specifically in Alabama, and then put that in plain English. Take a Trey Lance who played for North Dakota State, and he was a 1AA guy, 19, versus a Mac Jones. And when you had a guy like Nick Saban talking about, speaking on behalf of Mac Jones and how you're going to actually advocate for the player properly on an interview, Nick Saban, who made money off of Jalen Hurts, to fast food meal, essentially saying that you can have a Big Mac or you can have fast food, but I want my Chick-fil-A fries. For the 51st state in this country regarding education, specifically Alabama, when a young man is putting all his energy and efforts into basically accomplish their goals and dreams, and your direct representation is using an analogy with you as a chicken sandwich, you failed. And we know he failed because simply with that analogy, that person that he called a chicken sandwich, who helped win a national championship, put money, help him get an extension. Essentially now got drafted about 12 picks later. So Trey Lance, again, from a 1AA school, second time this happened, by the way. Number 3 overall for the San Francisco 49ers, but in all accounts, everybody says Kyle Shanahan is a genius. He knows football. John Lynch is a pro Hall of Famer now in the 2021 class. Everyone says these people are smart. They know what they're doing. Played in 19 months over a guy who played at the University of Alabama, who got a national championship and played all those games and did not opt out. Trust the facts, not the process. And that's just one example, but there are many. But as that happened, myself, my company was the only ones that actually point out that those 10 first rounders who got drafted ahead of those actual opt-outs is what it is. So here we are. College football wants to go to 12 teams. And why is that? They want to deter these brands, no matter who they are, to actually put money into these bowl games, into these playoff games, and not allow the actual players who without them, there would be no bowl games, there would be no playoffs to actually earn their revenue. No one is watching these games without the actual players. So again, now the industry wants to play on the players' mind again. Don't quit on your team. Do it for the team. Win a chance. And risk these millions like Jake Butt did, former University of Michigan tight end who was projected to be a first round, who played in the bowl game against Florida State and tore his ACL. That was in 2017. So overnight, Jake Butt goes to a rejected first round pick for all accounts to the 5th round to not being employed in the National Football League today as we speak. Trust the facts, not the process. The University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh is not cutting Jake Butt a check for his losses for making the team decision. The NCAA is not writing Jake Butt a text or a check for what he did in that bowl game to bring viewers and for TV. What they call him Jake Booty. Those commentators who got paid to come and cover that bowl game are not writing Jake Butt and his family a check for about saying his name over and over and over again to get people to retweet and to follow and to share and like. So once again, if you think the NCAA or the powers that be, anybody surrounds them, has anything in the best interest of the actual athlete, you don't understand this business. And you become one of the 80% if you are fortunate enough to make it as the 1% to go pro, to go broke within 2 years of retirement. But here's the kicker. 99% still do the same thing as the other 1% that do make it. And where are they now? Where's their ESPN 30 for 30? Where's their training succession in job and career that essentially when they got recruited in these kids' living rooms told them they would have? Where's their careers outside of being a bouncer or an actual gym trainer or an actual worker for Enterprise or any other medial job that they could have operated with again, but while even having a college degree? Just the facts, not the process. So the moral of the story is you cannot be compensated for your name, image, and likeness until you understand what it means to you to be professional, how to have character development, how to maximize your leverage and your own ability to capture what is yours. Because essentially everything in this space is set up to basically use you to capture it for theirs. My name is Robert T. Green, CEO of Pre-Post, and educate and empower and protect the athletes and the family's best interests alone. I want you guys to understand that this stuff we're very passionate about. For more information, you can often check us out at prepostgame.com. We're very excited about what we got coming up in the store next for you guys to really show you a lot of the different things that we're going to be working on. Again, when you're talking about building your name, image, and likeness and branding, there's a lot more to it than just saying, I want to do things. Understanding the brand, what you can do, not do, intellectual property protection. There's a lot of things that we can do that essentially no one else has done for athletes going forward. So again, we are happy at Pre-Post Game to be working on to present to you the HQ as Sports Business as a Service, meeting you where you are at every level, ensuring that you get what you need at fair market value. We do not need Congress permission to do that, nor do we need the NCAA's permission. There are several alternative methods to basically maximize your earning potential, to minimize your risk, and to basically develop you where you need to be. So when you're no longer playing, you know who you are, where you are, and how you got there. This is what we do at Pre-Post Game. So I hope you guys have a great Juneteenth, a great weekend, be safe. I look forward to next we speak, and you guys be well and be blessed.